Mandala Stones. This is an abstract game for 2 to 4 players. Players will collect the stones, represented here by discs of hard plastic. They will place them on their board. From their board, they will place them on another board where they will form a mandala. In the process, beauty will emerge out of chaos and points will be scored. This is an abstract game, and at the end, the player with the most points wins the game. You will score points during the game itself, but you also have secret objectives. Each player receives 2 of these cards at the beginning of the game. You don't show them to other people. You can pause and read, although maybe right now that won't make so much sense, but after I explain how the game works, maybe it will. You'll have a central board in the middle of the table on which you will stack these stones, represented again by discs of hard plastic, and there are 2 different patterns on them. This one with more close to each other, more like a tighter pattern. This one more like a floral pattern, at least that's how I see them. And so you'll stack all of these stones in stacks of 4 discs each randomly. Then you have these 4 cylinders, 2 with each pattern, and you're gonna place them on these 4 spots here, and that's how you set up the main area. As you can see, looking from above, there are also more empty spots that they need to be empty for the game to work. Each player also has a personal board, which is a little bit on the thin side. You place a scoring marker there. Here you have the track where you'll keep track of your scores. Here you have slots where you're going to place the stones that you collect, and you're going to remove them from these slots, scoring them in different ways. Once you remove them from here, you place them on that board there, forming the mandala, starting from the central spot, moving around this way until somebody covers one of these spaces here. And when the space corresponding to the number of players, 2 players, 3 players, or 4 players, is covered, that triggers the end of the game. You make sure everybody has the same number of turns, and at that point you score points, including you add the final scoring to whatever points you already collected. And at that point, the player with the most points wins the game. Now, when it is your turn, you must take an action. There are only 2 actions that are available. One is to pick, that is to collect stones, and the other one is to score. So one action will move collecting, will move stones from this board to your personal board, and scoring will move them from your personal board to the mandala board. When you collect, you select one of the 4 artists, these black cylinders, and you move it to another location. After you do so, you will collect, and you must collect, all stones that are visible, so that at that point are on top of columns, then match the pattern of the artist, and that are not next to other artists, because we don't want them to fight. So if this is adjacent to other artists, no one gets it. In this example, these 2 stones don't match that pattern. This one does, so it's collected. This one does, but is next to another artist, and so we take it, and once you take it, this counts as a tower, although it's only 1 piece, and we place it in any empty slot. Let's say we place it there, and then somebody takes their turn, and then suppose it's my turn again, and this time, for example, we move this artist here, right there. Oopsie. In this case, this time we have 2 stones that we need to take, because these are the 2 don't match the pattern and they're next to other artists. When you're taking more than a stone, you select your starting stone. This is important. And then you go clockwise and you collect the other stones in order. And the one that you picked first will be at the bottom of your tower, and the other ones will be on top. That's important because you can't change the order once you start. And then suppose that later, ooh, look at this nice harvest that I'm gonna do here. And suppose in this case, I'm gonna start with this one here, because this time I collect 4. And I make them like so. So that's the idea behind collecting stones. You can collect any number, basically between 1 and 4, depending on the situation, but you must collect all of the ones that your artist is capable to collect. And there are a couple of interesting elements here. Sometimes you don't want a stone, but then you're stuck getting it. Now, if you don't collect, you can choose to score, and you must score if all of the slots of your board are full. Then that's just the way it is. If they're all full, then you have to score, which will reduce them. You can pick only if there is a slot to place the newly acquired stones. When you score, you can choose one or two ways to do it. One way is you simply select any number of stones on top of your piles and you score 1 point each. Just like that, 1 point, that's it. I could have also said I'll score 2 points. I could have said I'll score 3 points. This is not the best way of scoring, and usually we'll do it mainly because you're preparing better scoring. And suppose I say, okay, I'm gonna just score 1 point like so. When you score stones, you place them again on the mandala, starting from there and moving outward. When you cover a spot with a number, you simply score the number of extra points. So you can score just like that. Take any number from the top and score 1 point each. Or you can score by color, which is when it gets real, when the real thing happens. When you score by color, you select a color, say in this case select yellow, you score all stones of that color on top of your towers. And this time you activate the special ability, so to speak, of the towers themselves. So when I score by color and I remove a stone from here, the number of points that I score depends on the position of the stone in the tower. In the tower there, the bottom is worth 4 points, the one on top is worth 2, and the one on top will be 1, and then 1. And so I scored that one, so that scores me 4 points, because it's there at the bottom. This one, as you can see, the other ones, these ones score in the same way, based on the position of the stone that you're scoring in the tower. This one scores you 1 point for each color in the tower plus 1. Oh, this one is 4 plus 1. That scores me 5 points. If I'm scoring a stone there, the score that I remove from there gives me 1 point for each height in the towers that are present at the time on my personal board. And 0 counts as height. So if I were, for example, after I scored these two, now I'm scoring blue, I'm gonna score 4 points for this one. 3 colors plus 1. 2 points for that one. 1 point for that one. This one, 1 point for each height, which is right now what I have on my board is a towers of 0, of 1, and 2. That's 3 heights. That would be 3 points. Again, when you take them, they go there and they form the beautiful mandala. So as you can see, just because often you will score by color, after a while you start having these nice patterns, and the mandala does look like there's a certain artistic intent, or at least there's a certain pattern to it. So this is the general idea. Sometimes you collect stones to place them on your board to form those piles, and then probably you want to try to score as many as you can. Opportunity cost, if you can score 5 towers in a single turn, that's of course better, but of course you want them to have all of those other nice elements that allow you to score them. Place them on the board, possibly collect some extra points, keep track of the points that you collect during the game. When the end of the game is triggered, again, we check these cards and now make a lot more sense, possibly. And the player with the highest total wins the game. Oops. Mandala Stones has a very nice production, especially when it comes to the stones themselves and the 2 main boards. The player board's a little bit flimsy, a little surprising that they seem to be below the quality of the rest of the production. Also, one thing is the patterns on the stones themselves, very pretty, and I guess they wanted to be similar to one another so that overall they don't clash aesthetically or whatever, but they take some getting used to. At the beginning especially, you have to check a couple of times before you're sure that you know which one is which, and you don't want to move the artist in a region, in an area where then there isn't the right kind of pattern or there's too much of it. So that's for the production. When it comes to gameplay, I like it. It's nice and simple, and yet with so many angles to it, with so many different things that you have to consider, that the game is very enjoyable for that. But I also see how that may become dangerous in terms of analysis paralysis. Now, personally, I didn't have that problem because of the two ways in which I played it, which is one with my daughters that are currently 8 and 10, and they enjoyed it enough, especially the 10-year-old wanted to play several times, the 8-year-old wasn't too taken with it. So if you play it, well, casually, because young players, that's the only way in which they can play it. They don't really get to work around all of the wrinkles, all the different angles that you had to consider. And so I played it casually, they played really hard, and the result was more or less the same. So the game felt balanced that way. Actually, maybe in terms of gameplay, I would say one thing is that there is an element of randomness when it comes to those final objectives, which is, well, first, which ones you get, but most importantly, you can plan a lot, but there's just an element of luck whether you score them or not. And they can be a lot of points. Actually, in several cases, we've seen those to be decisive. And frankly, I had my board perfectly set up in which I'm scoring 2 of my cards, and if the player before me ends the game and the game ends right there, I don't have to take another turn, I'm going to score, say, 17 points. That's huge. But if somebody else takes that turn and they don't end the game, then I have to do something that will mess up my board, and then I lose maybe 10 points. And that you just can't control. As the game goes on, I can get a sense, oh, my daughter is trying to end the game with 3 blue stones. But even if I figure that out, I may be mistaken. And even if I know for sure, there are just so many things that I have to care about on my board that effectively it's going to be hard to make that part of your calculations. The other way I played it is multiplayer solo, which is simply I put out 2 boards and I play 2 fictional characters. I know for many of you that will be silly, you would never do it, but I enjoy playing multiplayer games in solitaire in many cases, war games usually, but sometimes just very nice and clean abstracts, and then I can take how long as I want, however long I want to make my moves. No one is waiting for me, no one is suffering because of how long it takes me. There's no downtime there, and it's just nice to see how the mechanics interact and how you can create different strategies, etc., etc., etc. These days I don't have game night with my adult friends because although the pandemic, we're almost out there, we're not quite out of the pandemic yet, and so I just don't play games with my adult friends yet. And I don't know that this is a game that really I would play a game night, because then of course I want to play as best as I can and everybody does the same. And then I think that downtime and analysis paralysis could become pretty painful. First, because there's nothing you can do during other players' turns. So with 4 players, you're playing 25% of the game. That's it. No more, no less. And sometimes you will probably feel less if it's one of those turns in which you're just scoring a bunch of semi-useless pieces because you're setting up another score. You're going to be excited about that, but there isn't much that's happening that turn. While maybe somebody else will take their sweet, sweet time. And they should have the right to do so, because you should have the right to take into account how many stones you're getting. And which ones? Of course, since you don't get to stack them in the order that you want, that's relevant, because now I want all yellow stones on top of my towers, and I want purple stones right under them. So one turn I scroll the yellow and then all the purple. But then there's a lot that goes into making sure that I can collect those stones, because again, just because of the way you collect them, just going for a yellow and a purple may not be enough, because they may end up in different parts of the stack. So you have to take into account the position of the other artists and the patterns of the of the stones, and the towers that you placed on your board, and the location where you place them. Again, all really fun problems to work out when I'm not taking the game too seriously. I'm not really maximizing performance, play with my daughters, or I'm playing by myself and just enjoying the abstract problems behind it. I don't know that this is a game that I would want to play with adult friends, because there's just so much to consider that I think even well-meaning players will end up slowing down the game. And you really, since the board will change dramatically before the game goes back to you, between the stones are available and the position of the artist, you can't really do a lot of thinking before your turn comes around. You can't say, well, I my move is super complicated, but I've been thinking about it as y'all were taking your turn, because that's just not possible. So when my turn starts, I start the thinking, and I think there will be a risk of either causing a lot of downtime, or myself feeling guilty and then making a move that I like to take back, but I can't. So it's an abstract game that has a simple general engine, but is quite demanding if you want to play it well. And therein, maybe, again, if you don't mind the downtime, you like the challenge, the game may work for you, but I don't think it would work in any group, and I think I enjoyed the way I've been playing it, and I don't think it's a game that would really shine a game night, at least with my friends, because we like to put in our time to create the perfect strategy, and the game lends itself to that.